A lot of retirees across Canada are opening their bank statements this month and seeing something strange. Some folks are getting more CPP money than they expected, others are getting less, and nobody's really explaining why. If you've been getting CPP for a while now, or you're about to turn 70, this video is going to clear up a lot of confusion. Because something big is happening behind the scenes with how CPP gets recalculated after age 70. And it's affecting thousands of retirees right now. So here's the thing. Most people think that once you start getting CPP, that's it. The amount is locked in. Maybe it goes up a bit with inflation every year, but otherwise it stays the same, right? Well, not exactly. There's actually a quiet recalculation process that happens after you turn 70. And depending on your situation, that recalculation can either bump up your monthly payment or, in some cases, bring it down. And a lot of people don't even know this is happening until they see the change in their account. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand something important. This isn't about penalties or the government taking money away from you. It's about how CPP calculates your final benefit amount based on your work history, when you started taking CPP, and what you did between age 65 and 70. And believe me, those years between 65 and 70 can make a huge difference. Some people keep working during that time, some people stop, some people delay CPP, some people take it early. And all of those choices feed into this recalculation that happens later. Let me give you a real-life example. Let's say you're 71 years old. You started taking CPP at age 65. You kept working part-time until you were 68. You paid into CPP during those years, but your CPP payment never changed. Now, all of a sudden, you get a letter or you check your bank account and your CPP went up by $50 or $60 a month. You're happy, but you're also confused. What just happened? Did the government make a mistake? Are they going to take it back later? Here's what actually happened. CPP went back and looked at those extra years you worked between 65 and 68. They saw that you were still contributing to CPP during that time. And because of something called post-retirement benefit, or PRB, they added a little boost to your monthly payment. That boost doesn't show up right away. It can take a year or two, but once it kicks in, it's permanent. And it can really add up over time. But here's where it gets tricky. Not everyone sees an increase. Some people see their CPP go down slightly after age 70, and that's where the confusion really starts. Because if you didn't work after 65, or if you took CPP early and didn't contribute anything extra, the recalculation might not help you. In fact, in some rare cases, if there were errors in your original calculation, or if certain income years were re-averaged, your payment could actually drop a little bit. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is that fair? Why would my CPP go down if I've been getting it for years? Well, it's not that the government is cutting your benefit. It's more like they're making sure your benefit matches your actual contribution history. And sometimes when they go back and recalculate everything, the numbers come out a bit different than they did the first time. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it does happen. And when it does, it can be really frustrating if you're not expecting it. So let's break this down step by step. First, let's talk about what happens when you turn 70. For most people, 70 is the age where CPP stops changing. If you delayed your CPP until 70, you're already getting the maximum increase for waiting. If you took it early, your reduction is already locked in. Either way, by the time you hit 70, your base CPP amount is pretty much set. But that doesn't mean the story ends there. What a lot of people don't realize is that Service Canada keeps track of your CPP contributions even after you start collecting benefits. Let's say you started CPP at 65, but you kept working. Maybe you worked full-time, maybe part-time, maybe just seasonal work. Whatever the case, if you earned income and paid into CPP between age 65 and 70, those contributions didn't just disappear, they got stored in your account. And every year, Service Canada is supposed to calculate something called the post-retirement benefit based on those contributions. Now here's the thing. The post-retirement benefit, or PRB, is supposed to be added to your CPP automatically. But in reality, it doesn't always show up right away. Sometimes it takes a few months, sometimes it takes a year or more, and in some cases, people never even notice it because the increase is so small. But if you worked consistently after 65 and made decent contributions, that PRB can add up to a nice little bump in your monthly payment. Let me give you another example. Let's say you're 72 years old, you took CPP at 60, so you got a reduced payment, but you kept working full-time until you were 65, then you worked part-time until 68. All those years, you were paying into CPP. Now, even though you took CPP early, you're still entitled to the post-retirement benefit for the years you worked after 60. And when that PRB finally shows up, it can increase your payment by a noticeable amount. Not a fortune, but enough to make a difference in your monthly budget. But here's the part that confuses people. The PRB doesn't get added all at once. It gets added year by year. So if you worked from 65 to 68, you might get a small increase in 2024 for the contributions you made in 2023, then another small increase in 2025 for 2024's contributions, and so on. It's a slow build, but over time, it can really add up. And the best part is, once those increases are added, they're permanent. They don't go away. They're part of your CPP for life. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. Why do some people see their CPP go down after 70? This is where things get a little more complicated, and it's also where a lot of misinformation starts spreading. So let me be really clear about this. Your CPP should not go down just because you turned 70. That's not how the system works. But there are a few situations where a recalculation might result in a slightly lower payment. One of the most common reasons is an error in the original calculation. When you first applied for CPP, Service Canada looked at your earnings history and calculated your average monthly pensionable earnings. They're supposed to drop your lowest earning years to give you the best possible average. But sometimes mistakes happen. Maybe they used the wrong number of years. Maybe they didn't drop out the right low-income years. Maybe there was a data entry error. Whatever the reason, if they go back and recalculate your CPP after 70 and they find a mistake, they might adjust your payment. And if that adjustment goes the wrong way, your payment could drop. Another reason is if you had gaps in your contribution history that weren't properly accounted for. For example, let's say you took time off work to raise kids. You should have been eligible for the child rearing dropout provision, which excludes those years from your CPP calculation. But maybe that didn't get applied correctly when you first started getting CPP. Now, years later, Service Canada does a recalculation and realizes they should have used a different set of years. If that changes your average, your payment might go up or down depending on how the numbers work out. There's also something called the general dropout provision. This lets CPP drop out up to 17% of your lowest earning years. But if your earnings pattern was unusual, or if you had a lot of years with zero income, the recalculation might not help you. In fact, in some cases, it might reveal that your original benefit was calculated a bit too high. And if that happens, they might adjust it downward. Again, this is rare, but it does happen. Now, here's something really important. If your CPP does go down after a recalculation, you have the right to ask for an explanation. Service Canada is supposed to send you a letter explaining why your payment changed. And if you don't understand the letter, or if you think they made a mistake, you can request a more detailed breakdown of your CPP calculation. You can also appeal the decision if you believe it's wrong. A lot of people don't know this. They just accept the lower payment and move on. But you don't have to do that. You have options. Let's talk about another factor that affects CPP after 70, clawbacks. Now, technically, CPP itself isn't clawed back. But if you're receiving old age security or OAS, that can be clawed back if your income is too high. And sometimes when your CPP goes up because of the post-retirement benefit, your total income goes up too. And if that pushes you over the OAS clawback threshold, you might lose some of your OAS. So even though your CPP went up, your total monthly income might not change much. Or in some cases, it might even go down a bit. This is something a lot of retirees don't see coming, and it can be really frustrating. Here's a simple way to think about it. Let's say your CPP goes up by $50 a month because of PRB. That's great. But now your total income is $600 higher per year. If you're already close to the OAS clawback threshold, that extra $600 might trigger a clawback of, say, $90 in OAS over the course of the year. So your net gain is only $5-10 instead of $600. Still a gain, but not as much as you thought. And if you weren't expecting it, it can feel like the government is taking away what they just gave you. Now, let's get into some specifics. Who is most likely to see a CPP increase after 70? Well, if you fit any of these situations, there's a good chance your CPP will go up. Number 1, you worked and contributed to CPP between age 65 and 70. Number 2, you delayed taking CPP until after 65 or even until 70. Number 3, you had a strong earnings history in your later working years. Number 4, you didn't have a lot of low-income or zero-income years that would drag down your average. On the other hand, who's most likely to see no change or even a slight decrease? Well, if you stopped working before 65 and didn't contribute anything to CPP after that, you probably won't see any PRB boost. If you took CPP early, at 60 or 61, and didn't work much after that, same thing. If your earnings history was spotty, with a lot of gaps or low-income years, a recalculation might not help you. And if there was an error in your original CPP calculation that made it too high, you might see a correction later on. Here's something else to keep in mind. The timing of these recalculations can be all over the place. Some people see changes within a few months of turning 70, others don't see anything for a year or two, and some people never get notified at all. They just notice a change in their bank account and have to call Service Canada to figure out what happened. It's not a very transparent process. And that's one of the biggest complaints people have. They want to know what's happening with their money, but the system doesn't always make it easy to find out. So what should you do if you see a change in your CPP after 70? First, don't panic. Check your bank statements and compare your current CPP payment to what you were getting before. If it went up, great. If it went down, or if it stayed the same and you were expecting an increase, you need to take action. Call Service Canada and ask them to explain the change. Ask for a detailed breakdown of your CPP calculation. If you don't understand the explanation, ask them to clarify. And if you still think something's wrong, consider filing a request for reconsideration or even an appeal. You can also request your CPP statement of contributions. This document shows every year you contributed to CPP, how much you earned, and how much you paid in. It's a really useful tool for understanding how your CPP was calculated. And if there are any errors or missing years, you can catch them early and get them fixed before they cause problems later on. Now let me talk about something that doesn't get mentioned enough: the emotional side of all this. For a lot of retirees, CPP is a lifeline. It's not just money, it's security. It's peace of mind. It's knowing that you have a guaranteed income every month, no matter what. So when that income suddenly changes, even by a small amount, it can be really stressful. You start wondering if you did something wrong. You worry that the government is going to take more away. You lose trust in the system. And that stress can take a real toll, especially if you're already dealing with health issues or financial struggles. That's why I'm making videos like this. Because I want you to feel informed and empowered. I want you to know that these changes are normal. They're part of how the CPP system works. And in most cases, they're actually in your favor. But even when they're not, you have the right to understand what's happening and to push back if something seems wrong. You worked hard for your CPP. You paid into it for decades. And you deserve to get every dollar you're entitled to. Let me give you one more example to really drive this home. Let's say you're 73 years old. You started CPP at 65. You worked part-time for a few more years and contributed to CPP. But you never saw any increase in your payment. You assumed that was just how it worked. Then you watch a video like this, or you talk to a friend who got a PRB boost, and you realize something might be wrong. So you call Service Canada. You ask about the post-retirement benefit, and they tell you, oh, we missed that. We'll recalculate and send you the back pay. Suddenly, you get a lump sum payment covering 2 or 3 years of missed PRB. That could be hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And it never would have happened if you hadn't asked. That's the power of staying informed. That's why I keep saying, don't just assume everything is being handled correctly. Double check. Ask questions. Make sure you're getting what you're owed, because the system isn't perfect. Mistakes happen. And if you don't catch them, nobody else will. Now, I know this video is getting long, but there's one more thing I need to cover, and that's what's coming next. Because the CPP recalculation process is evolving. The government is making changes to how and when these recalculations happen, and those changes could affect you, especially if you're approaching 70 or if you've already passed it. I'm working on a full video about this, and you'll see it right after this one on the end screen. I'm going to break down exactly what's changing, who's affected, and what you need to do to make sure you're not left behind. But for now, here's what you need to remember. After age 70, your CPP can still change. It can go up if you worked and contributed after 65, it can stay the same if you didn't, and in rare cases, it can go down if there was an error in the original calculation. The key is to stay on top of your CPP, check your statements, ask questions, and don't be afraid to push back if something doesn't look right. One more thing. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing you care about your retirement income. You want to make sure you're getting everything you're entitled to. You want to avoid mistakes and surprises. And you want clear, simple information that actually helps you. Well, that's exactly what this channel is all about. I make videos on CPP, OAS, GIS, retirement planning, and all the things that matter to Canadian retirees. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Also, I'm curious, which city are you watching from? Are you in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, somewhere smaller? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love hearing from you. And if you have questions about your CPP, or if you've noticed a change in your payment recently, share your story in the comments. You might help someone else who's going through the same thing. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. But before I go, let me leave you with this. Your CPP is more than just a monthly payment. It's the result of a lifetime of work. Every year you contributed, every job you held, every paycheck you earned, it all went into building that benefit. And you deserve to understand how it works. You deserve to get every dollar you're entitled to. And you deserve to retire with confidence, knowing that your income is secure. So don't let confusion or fear stop you from asking questions. Don't let a letter from Service Canada intimidate you. And don't assume that just because something is complicated, you can't figure it out. You can. And I'm here to help you do it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, stay informed, stay confident, and take control of your retirement.